Having students write handwritten notes in response to the concepts that are being explored in any given lesson is a really powerful way to invite deeper thinking. Students have to be able to synthesize that information, to organize it in a way that makes them understand it. They have to make judgments and decisions about what to prioritize, how to articulate their thinking, connect ideas. In other words, the act of writing is in and of itself an act of thinking.
Today will be kind of a blend between the Gilded Age and the Progressive era.
The primary objective as we were going through class today was to understand labor issues in the Gilded Age. We've been doing issues in labor a little bit before, and then today ended up being a lecture day.
The United States Constitution cannot regulate what is sold in an individual state.
If there's a major theme I want them to know, anything that would be deemed really important, we can make into a stop and think. With the stop and think, we'd do a little bit of content, and then up on the TV, I would have a range of anywhere between 1 to 3 questions.
Describe working conditions in the time period would be our first stop and think on this one. Our second one would be, what would it be like to be a worker in this time period?
I'll read them the questions. In their notebooks, they will physically write out the answer.
Whenever we ask students to write, we're in fact asking them to do more with the information. The fact that they have to in some way manipulate that information, to put it into different forms or expressions, to be able to make those notes make sense to themselves, that over an act of simply typing what they hear is a more cognitively demanding and cognitively efficient and useful way of interacting with information.
Do we need a little bit longer?
Whenever they're all finished, they usually give me a thumbs up, and then we'll move on to the next section, and then that process will repeat.
This should highlight and emphasize the working conditions that we saw during this time period. Now, this one's actually during the Progressive era.
It turns out that when we invite students to process matters. It ought to happen incrementally, it ought to happen judiciously. This means that whenever a teacher introduces students to an essential piece of information, it must be that those students have the opportunity to process meaningfully that information on site, hot on the heels of when they've first been exposed to it.
Working conditions were not good during the time, right?
And then when they get finished, that's when there'll be the discussion amongst peers.
Because like the work conditions are unsafe.
Typically on the areas that they've written it down, we have much higher retention.
Second one, I said it'd be stressful and really exhausting.
It does become more emphasized in their working memory and stored into their long-term memory better.